Good morning, everyone. Really glad you're here today. Thanks for joining me and spending your morning here for, I don't know, we'll probably go 20 minutes, a half hour, something like that. We're going to get started here, so let's roll. And before we begin, let's talk a little bit about risk. Of course, any sort of trading involves risk, and really just comes down to using some good old common horse sense. Really just trade with capital that you can afford to lose, because you will have losses, and it's very, very important to understand that. And the cool thing about with Nadex is you do have a cap on that. You'll know your risk ahead of time, but at that, still only use risk capital. And there's me. I've been involved with the markets for over 30 years now, so kind of dating myself, but been at this for a long time. And we're located over in Oregon on the West Coast. We're in Southern Oregon in the Rogue River Valley. Live here with my wife and kids. All right, so what I want to talk about here to get going here this morning is just looking at some news. There are a couple of places I look for news. They're pretty popular, I think, but I'm going to bring it over here in a moment here, a couple of these, and I'm going to show you another tool that may help your trading as well. And then what we're going to do is we're going to look at some markets that are on the move here this morning. All right, so these are the two places that I like to visit. Specifically, I probably spend more time at Forex Factory. I look at their economic calendar, but my FX book has one as well. And their calendar is probably a little more detailed. They rate the news events a little bit differently than does Forex Factory. But let's take a look here and bring this over. All right, so here is the calendar from Forex Factory. Now, I only focus on what are known as the high impact events here. You can see they're all in red, and the way you can filter this out once you're here at forexfactory.com, just click on their calendar. You'll arrive at the calendar. You can come up here to the filter, click there, and you can see the different rankings that they have. And I only want to focus on high impact events, so I select that and apply the filter. And this is what's come up for the rest of the week here. So we have some news here tomorrow. Today, nothing going on according to this specific calendar, but you'll see on the other calendar there actually is an event here in a little less than an hour. So we had this, we have this tomorrow out of Great Britain at 4:30 a.m. And we are, let's just refresh this to make sure we're up to speed here time-wise. So there we go. And we're going to show more. There we go. So you can see that this is actually set on Eastern time here at 9:03, but tomorrow we have that, and then out of Europe, 7:45 a.m. Eastern, and then there is a European Central Bank press conference, so be aware of that. Draghi can, if he's speaking, can move the markets, the president over there of the European Central Bank. Also, there is some news out of the US at 8:30. So that can affect it as well. And then the bigger event will be at 2 p.m. Eastern tomorrow, and that is the FOMC meeting minutes. And those will be released. On Thursday, we have the OPEC meetings. So if you are a trader of crude oil, for example, you want to be aware of that, because any of the language that comes out of those meetings can have an effect on the crude oil market. And that is it for the week. And then down here is for next week. So we'll just kind of end it there with Forex Factory's calendar. Let's go over to the other calendar here, and that is my FX book, excuse me. Yeah, that filter is pretty easy to use. Just come up here, click on filter, deselect the ones you don't want to see, and then just click apply filter. That's all you got to do. All right, so under my FX book, so very similar here, I just click on more, so right there, and I deselected these items here, and just leave the high impact on. And you can see when I do that, let's see if we can get off of that, and make sure you click save down at the bottom here, that there is an event here out of the US, the JOLTS job openings, that comes out at 7. Now this calendar happens to be in Pacific time where I am located. But yeah, you can see that. And then tomorrow, basically most of the same events. Are a couple of others listed here, as you can see. And then Thursday, they have the initial jobless claims listed. That comes out, of course, at 5:30 my time. And then Brexit Day, so just be aware of that too. Do you have to be a member of the Forex Factory to use that? No, not at all. I'm not logged in at all. All right, so we got that. All right, so let's move on here. So let's take a look at some of the markets that might provide some volatility this week, kind of based around the news, but I'm also going to show you another tool that you can use here, and I'll show that to you in just a few moments to help you get a good visual on the momentum in the markets. All right, so this is my charting platform that I use. It's Bar Chart Trader. If you, if you are at all interested in finding out more about them, you surely can just go to barcharttrader.com and you can find out information there. You can download the demo for a couple weeks, try that out. But I look at all markets, forex, futures, equities, and the quote space I have up here, my little quote board. Most of the markets you see listed here will be markets that can be traded on Nadex. There are a couple of exceptions here, but for the most part, everything is traded on Nadex. And here you see a variety of different charts with a lot of different colors on it. Kind of looks like a kid's coloring book to some degree. But what I like to do is I like to use different colors to help me recognize support and resistance zones. I'm a big trader of support and resistance zones. So this market here happens to be the Aussie dollar, US dollar. But what I want to do is switch over here to the euro pound. Again, this is one that is traded on Nadex, and I'm going to come down here. So I have different time frames, and everything is in a multiple of 3 or divisible by 3. So for instance, the main chart that I would trade from in this workspace is a 3-minute chart. That's this chart here in the upper center. That is this one right here. And then we have a 9-minute, a 27, 81, 243. So the 243 is kind of my go-to here that I start with, and I load this up, and you'll note here I have a couple of different rectangles on here. The lower one in green represents a support area. The upper one is a resistance area, and you can see how the market has moved into resistance here. Now I have some other things on here too. I won't go into great detail about them, but I'll give you just a kind of a brief heads up here. This is my momentum indicator I designed for Bar Chart Trader. The red is, if you think of it this way, you have a red tide where the energies are going down to the downside here. You have the blue wave, the energies are to the upside. And the indicator actually changes color as well. So for instance, you see right here where it went from blue into white, a whitish blue or a lighter color blue. That meant momentum was weakening to the upside. Same on the downside here. You see how it gets a little lighter color. Momentum weakening, or weakening to the downside. In other words, is give me a heads up, not an exact heads up of when the market will turn, but gives me an idea, so I need to be aware of that. The middle indicator here is the stochastic. I use that to help me recognize cycles in the market, cycle highs, cycle lows. And the lower indicator is another indicator I designed for Bar Chart Trader, and it is essentially a divergence indicator. Helps me recognize or points out divergence kind of ahead of time and looking for turns in the market as well. So anyway, here we are. You can see the market has reached into this resistance zone. So I look at the market when it gets into a resistance zone or is approaching it, that it could react, in other words, bounce out of that zone. In this case, pull back. And you can see we've had a pretty good move up here, this most recent green candle, pretty good move up into that zone. You see the wick here on this candle, and the market filled in the majority of that wick. So we could see the market pull back here. Now, again, there are no guarantees, by the way, with any of this analysis. These are all things that I'm looking at and I'm taking into consideration before I ever place a trade, if I'm going to place a trade. And there's a lot more to it than we can get involved with here just in a half hour or so. But the idea is we're in a resistance zone, is what I see right now. The market can go do a couple of different things, right? It can break out of the zone. It can up to the upside in this case, reverse out of it, or just kind of chop sideways. And I'm looking at my momentum indicator, and the momentum is still to the upside, even though it's faded off the highs. You see this? It's faded off the highs, but we still have momentum to the upside here. So this isn't really clear here at this point because we have, you know, price moving to new highs, but momentum's pulled back some. So let's come down here and look at the next lower time frame, the 81 minute. Now you can see here, maybe a little clearer, there's actually a kind of a triple top here, which is a reversal pattern. But momentum, you see momentum here, still pretty strong to the upside right here. And the cycle study hasn't topped out yet. This can stay up in these upper ranges for some time as the market is trending, if the market's trending. So we don't know as of yet here. We still have that energy to the upside, but now we see a triple top that's formed here inside resistance. We could be setting up potentially for some sort of reversal. So let's just kind of work our way down here. We'll go down to the 27-minute chart. This is kind of the driver. You can see that triple top here, maybe even a little bit clearer. See right through here. So looking at multiple time frames, trading from multiple time frames just allows me to kind of see under the hood, so to speak. And you can see how the market is potentially forming a bearish candle here. But look at the momentum. So see, we have that. If you just focus on one thing, I believe you can be a little bit misled. We still have pretty strong momentum to the upside here. No divergence as of yet. And actually, you know what? Let me re-say that here. There is a tad bit of divergence here. Yeah, here we go, right here. From high to slightly lower high on the indicator. Then we come over here, high to higher high. Yeah, so there is divergence here. So what I look for when I see that is the market going to seek out the nearest level of support or resistance. In this case, since the market has advanced, I would look for it to seek out the nearest level of support, which is really going to be right down in here, the bottom of that box or that red rectangle. So that's something I will watch for, which would, in this case, kind of coincide with a possible topping pattern as well. So now let's come over here to the 9-minute. We'll look at this market. So this is as we're looking at that triple top, we could also kind of call that a head and shoulder pattern. So again, here it is here on the 9-minute. And then over here on the most recent price action, you can see there's actually a double top right here as well. So it would be inside of what we could call a right shoulder of a head and shoulder pattern. So the left circle here is the left shoulder, then we have the head, and then we have the right shoulder. So my trading is based around support and resistance, momentum, and chart patterns. It's a combination of all three. So we have that, and we come down here, we can see a little bit more. And here's a double top that is formed in this market. And again, we're looking for potentially to see if the market will move down to this level here. Now, if the market does follow through off that divergence, then we look for it to react and perhaps continue in the direction from which it came. So again, there's even some divergence on this level. Let's just kind of move from here. We'll look at from real bodies of the green candles. See that? And then here on this indicator, we have so on price, we have a high and a higher high, momentum, a high and a lower high, and that's going to be it for the moment. For me personally, on my charting platform, using my indicators, if I can get all three of these lined up, that is the type of situation I really love. If they're all pointing a divergence to price. All right, so at the moment here, this is something that we could look for potentially to kind of come in through this level here. So we're looking at the moment here, it's like 86.32 down to 86.27. So it's just about a 5-pip move. It's not a big move by any stretch. But if the momentum fades, now you can see where on this time frame, within this time frame, the cycle study put in this high and it has crossed down now below the midpoint, confirming a potential cycle high. Now, that doesn't mean that the market is going to continue to sell off or necessarily bounce here. Again, I take everything into context and the content. So the content of this chart is momentum has faded a bit, market's pulling back, but what's the context? I.e. the other charts, what are they saying? We've kind of gone through that already. So that's what I would watch for potentially here as this double top kind of unfolds, or triple top, the large triple top. See if this resistance zone holds here. Another market I want to talk, well, before I do that, let me show you the indicator I wanted to point out to you and show you how you can find it here. All right, so this is a website out of the UK. It's livecharts.co.uk. It's just their currency strength meter. And I'm going to refresh it here. And this could be helpful if you don't have a momentum indicator that you necessarily like to use. So for instance, right now, the Aussie dollar, you see right here, if you look at the top, the green is very, very strong. The Japanese yen, very, very strong as well. Compare these two over here to the US dollar or the pound. So if I was to look at the currency pair, the Aussie dollar, US dollar, the Aussie dollar on the chart should be moving higher. Does that make sense? If that makes sense, please give me a Y for a yes or an N for a no. Super, all right, just want to make sure we're on the same page here. So let's look at the Aussie dollar, US dollar. And you can see right here how, if we look at the half-hour chart, for example, the 27-minute chart, see how this has been moving up? So the Aussie dollar is increasing against the US dollar. So here's the yen. So what we're going to do here is we'll look at the US dollar, Japanese yen. We'll look at the pound yen as well. And again, the yen is much stronger than both of the other currencies, the pound or the dollar. So again, this is just a free tool that you can use. And if we come down here, look at the pound yen, remember the yen was much stronger, so this market, this pair should be moving lower, and you can see that has been the case here this morning. And then we had the dollar yen as well. Remember the yen much stronger. See how, and there's a very, very good visual here of this market moving lower. All right, so you can see I have some of these levels already marked off here again on the dollar yen. So let's talk about this. See how the market was in this resistance zone, just looking back. And really what I do is I'm just marking off the highs and lows in the market and just projecting those forward. Because if I come out like this, you can see how I have that drawn out more to the right. All right, so the market got rejected in here. We have a little chart pattern that had formed. Right here's a shoulder, a head, and a shoulder. Look at my momentum indicator in this case. Look at how it's just angled down. In fact, all of these are angled down. And you saw that on the currency meter too, right? That the yen was much stronger than the dollar, and thus the movement to the downside here. So at this point, the market is in a support zone here. I have a couple different moving averages here. At the bottom is the 89 simple moving average. That's right here at the bottom of the zone. There's also another support zone here. Momentum still very strong to the downside. So what I'm going to watch for with this pair is for this to kind of be filled, this level here to possibly be filled in. In other words, the market would move down into that zone. That's very, very very, very possible here with the momentum very strong here on this 4-hour chart to the downside. So that's what I'll be watching for here this morning. And what I'll do is I'll keep an eye on this, and obviously with each candlestick here taking roughly 4 hours to form 243 minutes, it's going to take some time for some sort of pattern to shape up. But the beautiful thing about looking at different time frames is that you can see other patterns form as the market's moving down. So if the market here on this time frame stalls out here, I can go down to the lower time frames, maybe a 10-minute chart, or on my charts a 9-minute chart, and see if there's a pattern developing there, a possible reversal where I could anticipate that the market's going to bounce in this region as it moves lower here. So if you look at this chart here, right here, that's the 4-hour chart. Now look at the 3-minute chart. You see the big white candle here on the 4-hour chart. You can see really what that looks like, the micro view of that. So as the market kind of sets up in here, or as it continues to move lower, I'll be watching for a possible reversal pattern on these smaller time frames. And again, you can keep an eye on that currency meter to help you gauge the momentum in the market as it shifts. So we have the euro pound, watching that. We talked about that here a little bit this morning. And here is the US dollar, Japanese yen. Some things need to unfold. As I come down here, as I move a little bit from the 4-hour chart, let's look at this 81-minute chart. You can see how its price is sitting right on support here of the 200-period moving average, sitting right on support. The energies are still to the downside here. As we move over here to the 27-minute chart, I see a former support zone and now resistance, which is going to be right in here. So as this market has moved down on this higher time frame, we have an area here in which the market may want to retrace if it finds a bottom. And this is an area that I'll keep in mind here. So I like to focus on the 618%, 50%, and the 382% Fibonacci retracement levels. I just usually box these off on my charts. And that way I don't have to have all the lines and such on the charts here. But I'm going to anticipate that somewhere down the road now, if the market continues lower, to fill in that area I talked about on the higher time frame, then I'll have to adjust this. But right now, this gives me a decent idea of a potential retracement zone. So again, if you recall, we're looking for the market to move into this ellipse that I drew. See how it's already doing so here? And come down and test this level and maybe react. You can see how it's just pushing. If you come up here to this upper center chart, you can see how the market's trying to push a little bit lower here. That support is trying to hold on the 81 at that moving average we just looked at right there. But as we continue with this move to the downside, that may get taken out here. Any questions on either of the two markets that we've covered so far this morning? If not, then the next market I want to take a peek at here is gold. And one thing you can think about in regards to the currency meter is that'll give you a good idea of the money flow in the market. Where's the money going into? I'm going to refresh this again. So now you can also see here the euro is much stronger than the dollar and the pound. So let's look at the euro real quick. So the euro is stronger than the dollar, so we should be moving up here, and you can see that's been the case. And if I come over here to the higher time frame, so I always do top-down analysis. I'm starting at essentially the 4-hour chart. I do have a 729-minute chart and a daily chart on this workspace. Just for the sake of time here, we'll just kind of focus on the 4 hour. But here's an area here. See how the market has started to move up and out of my resistance zone here? So the next level, because markets tend to seek out support and resistance, the next level, let's see here, we have right here, which is the midpoint of that ellipse. But I would anticipate, because momentum is so strong to the upside, that we may see a continuation move here as well. And you can see that's a little bit clearer on some of these other time frames as we move down here to, say, a half-hour chart. You can see how the market has slowly moved higher here. But here's the thing, as it's doing this, we go from high to higher high here. We can look at the momentum, how that had faded a little bit, right? And momentum just moved sideways. So this is not ready to turn yet. As you can see, prices moving up now. If we come a little bit forward here, prices moving up through here, but we also have momentum starting to increase again, and perhaps looking to take out swing highs and swing lows on momentum. Will I actually take a trade while we're watching? It's doubtful, Michael, that I'll be able to do that here, just because for a limited time. And this is more about analyzing the markets and kind of breaking down potential opportunities going forward here. All right, so there don't appear to be any questions on any of the markets at this point. So I think what we'll do is we'll just move over here to the gold market, and we'll take a look here, and then we will wrap it up for the morning. So here's the June gold contract, June futures. Let's start out here. So the market really kind of sold off here. This is the 28th of March, came down here and then started to move sideways. And actually, you can see how the support area here that I'd marked off from way back at the beginning of March did hold. You can see the market did pop below it, but immediately reversed. Immediately reversed here, and then price has been moving up here since then. And you can see here how price is holding resistance. Yeah, I see a few questions coming in. I'll be happy to get to those as soon as I get through this market. We'll take a look at those questions. So the market has moved up here, high to higher high, and this is pretty even, but on the verge of taking out the high here. So that's a continuation move or a convergent move at this point on this chart here. You see how everything's kind of angled up. The exception would be this guy right here. This is showing some potential signs of some divergence here on my divergent indicator. Now I say potential because it hasn't totally hooked to the downside here. It's kind of flat here on this most recent candle. So we'll see if this resistance holds, but at the moment, very strong momentum to the upside here on this 4-hour chart of gold. So let's just kind of move down here. I'm going to skip the 81. We'll come down here to the half-hour chart for the sake of time. And you can see how it took out, the market, excuse me, took out this swing high in price. And we're sitting up here again on, see the momentum indicator. I don't want to fight the momentum indicator. So what I want to do is look for opportunities on retracements here to potentially get on board this market to the upside. Now that could mean that I might trade, if I get the opportunity, I might trade weekly binaries, weekly spreads, whatever it might be. So here on the 9-minute, there is a chart pattern that is formed. And let's see here, really just kind of have a flag pattern, which is a trend continuation pattern. I'm just going to draw that across the top here. There it is. So the idea here is that the market will break out to the upside and continue on. However, there is some divergence on this chart. So we may see a move down before we see a continuation move to the upside. See, that's why I have 2 of the 3 indicators I've already put in lower highs as prices moved higher. And then right here, I even have a lower move. So I'm anticipating now at this point that we may see the market pull back a bit before it decides to continue. And there are a couple different levels here. So just looking at pivot highs, swing and swing lows. So see how I started here on that pivot high or swing high. drag my rectangle across here to these right here. So that's a little support zone that the market may want to dip into here before continuing on back to the upside here. Of course, we have to take it all into context. And you could do this sort of analysis off of daily, weekly, monthly charts, 4-hour charts, 1-hour charts, whatever meets your lifestyle. All right, so let's just take one more look here. So here again, you can see how momentum has faded. Now, gold is not on that currency meter. That's just for currencies. But we also have kind of a triple top here. 1, 2, 3. See that? So we have weakness in momentum and the energy in the market. So that's just the third step in this, as I'm looking at the energies in the market. So, you know, I mentioned earlier that we live in the Rogue Valley, and you have the big Rogue River. It's a massive river that runs from about the middle of the state out to the Pacific Ocean. You know, I've been swimming in that many a time, and it's much easier just let the current take you downstream than it is to swim upstream against the current. So it's the same approach for me in regards to the markets. I want to trade with that energy if we get the setup. So again, in fact, let me just kind of wrap this up on the 3-minute chart here. So there's this area in here we could see the market dip into if the support gets taken out on this pullback that the market's kind of going through here at the moment. Now, one more thing on this. This is really important with the setups here. If you look at these indicators, look at the angle of this. We have this energy to the upside on these indicators that I use to help me determine the energy. Everything's kind of to the upside. So I don't necessarily want to jump on board as the market continues to push. I want to wait again for some sort of pullback retracement. In other words, buy low, sell high if it comes about. So there we go. Today we've looked at the euro pound. We looked at the dollar yen, and here we are on gold. And I'm going to try to take some questions here, and let's see here. Yes, I analyze on my own all these different markets, Michael. I don't think we're going to have time this morning to take a look at any more here, but let me just try to answer some other questions here. Let's see. According to the meter, the Aussie dollar and yen equals. Why does it going down? Let's go take a look at that and see what we can see here. Okay, so you have to remember too that when you have equal rankings, nothing's really changing, right? Price could be, they're duking it out for strength in the market or weakness in the market. So you see they are equal here. Let's refresh that and take a look here. So here you can see the yen now is stronger, a couple of bars stronger than the Aussie dollar. So if we go back to the charts, the yen is stronger than the dollar. So we bring this up, and you can see that is the case. The yen is stronger than, I said the dollar, the yen is stronger than the Australian dollar. See that? And the market's moving lower. How to set up charts to trade the news. So, Edward, what I do is I tend to avoid the news. I don't want to necessarily trade it. I will wait for it to pass. So, because I use these smaller time frames, I'm going to look at determine when the news is coming out, and then if I'm not already in a position ahead of the news, I will then wait probably 45 minutes to an hour for it to pass and things to kind of settle down and resume their kind of normal activity. Is this being recorded? Yes, it is being recorded by Nadex, and it should be up on their site later today. All right, let's see if there are any other questions. Yes, as far as determining the support and resistance zones, yes, I'm just, if I blow up my highest time frame here, in fact, we could come over here to this 729-minute chart, but I'm just looking at these pivot highs and pivot lows. This isn't a good example here. Let's find another chart here. And yeah, we'll just kind of use this chart here. So you'll see these different levels on the chart. For instance, here, basically just these kind of pointed areas. Right, so we have those on the top and on the bottom. There's some here as well. So with this being the case, I would just come in here and grab the rectangle tool and just kind of try to highlight those levels. And sometimes it means taking into consideration multiple levels. You see that? So what I did here is I encompassed these highs. These are already inside the range, and then I have this area up here. So that's one way to do it. And you can even kind of fine tune that just depending on how far you want to go back. Maybe I just want to include this area here and then just stretch it out and then do the same thing on the bottom side. So I'd look at these lows over here. Come back. So I'm just kind of combining the highs and lows, or the swing highs and lows in the market. Something like that. Then I like to use colors. So I use green for support and red for resistance. And then I'll also I'll typically use trend lines to mark off other points maybe in between the zones. You can see where the market's at here at the moment. There's this area of lows, this kind of consolidation here, as well as over through here too. So I'll just do that, and then I will look for the markets to move from zone to zone using support, using the momentum indicator, using chart patterns, and that's how I trade. Yeah, so this chart here, this is Bar Chart Trader, is the charting platform. All right. Yeah, if you have any other questions and need some help, this is how you can contact me at our website, gbebinary.com. You can shoot us an email, just say that, hey, I saw Jim this morning on the webinar for Nadex. And if you have any questions there, support at gbemembers.com. Or if you just want to talk to somebody in our office, we actually have real people in here answering the phones. And if for some reason the phones are all tied up, you'll get my voice on the machine. But otherwise, feel free to give us a call. We're in the office 8:30 to 5, Monday through Friday at 541-955-2700. That's Pacific time. Yeah, thanks for joining me today. And we'll do this again next week as well. Maybe we'll have a little bit more activity next week with some of the news this week. A lot of times you'll find the markets will just kind of be stagnant, anticipating the upcoming news, and then things can happen after the news. And we have the FOMC meeting minutes. We have a European Central Bank press conference this week. So that could have, some reason or cause the markets, better said, cause the markets to just kind of sit on their hands. Although we did see some movement in some of the pairs. So we'll be watching that, and next week we'll try to look at something a little bit different. Maybe we'll focus on crude oil and maybe the stock indices as well. But there you go. Thanks for swinging by here. Yeah, so how do I decide when to drill down, or you do it with every time? I do it every time, Steve. So I'm always working my way for top-down analysis, is known as. I'm always starting high, working my way lower. You could even start out on the daily chart and work your way down. So it kind of depends on what time frames you wish to trade. If you don't have a lot of time, maybe you can only look at the charts a couple times a day. You may want to use a 4-hour chart as your main chart, your trading chart. You may want to use a 1-hour chart, whatever works best for you. If you're somebody that has a lifestyle where you can check the computer very often, maybe you want to use a 3-minute like I do as my setup chart or my trading chart, or a 5-minute or 15-minute. But yeah, I'm always drilling down. Oh, great, Paul. Let's see here. Great present. Oh, thanks for the comments, Jeff. Appreciate it. I think I got everybody's question. Yes, so somebody asked about a demo on the Nadex platform. Maybe we can look at that a little bit, but I have produced a lot of videos for my course members on on that sort of, you know, walking through the platform and that sort of thing. But, and I know Nadex has a library of videos as well, so you might want to check those out if that, maybe that'll help you out as well. But if we can do something like that, I will consider it for sure. All right, everybody. So we also have gold. We did wrap up with gold there, so keep an eye on that as well. And hope to see you again next week. Thank you so much for your time. Have a great day. I'm Jim Prince. God bless. We'll see you all again next time. Thank you, everyone.